Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, sisters. Two events in 2019 have been on my mind and in my heart. These two events are calling me to invite you into a time of prayer. 145 days of prayer, leading up to our 145th birthday on October 21, the day that Carolyn Neville Paree and the women she brought together organized the Christian Women's Board of Missions, which has become Disciples Women. The two events I'm talking about are the 145th birthday and our participation in the UN's Commission on the Status of Women. Something is happening. God is speaking, and women are finding their voices. Women have important stories to tell, and when we listen and hear those stories, we are all better for it. We've studied many stories in the Bible where the women characters are unnamed. The woman at the well, Jephthah's daughter, the Syrophoenician woman. These are women whose stories are important to our understanding of our combined story of faith, yet we do not know their names. Do we have women in our midst that are unnamed? Women who feel invisible. Women who serve and are a big part of our combined faith story, yet they are unnamed. What can we do to amplify their voices? How are we silencing women in the church? How difficult do we make it for women to use their voices? What messages do we send that reinforce the idea that women have less value in the world or in the church? Are we fully aware and focused on celebrating and uplifting the contributions of women to the church and to the faith? Are women's ministries represented in church budgets, reflective on the mission and ministry they are doing? We need to take a look at ourselves. Are we personally or systemically supporting male-centric concepts of personhood for women? Are we part of the dominant culture in our context without asking the question, who are we silencing? This doesn't only happen in our world, but there are many stories in the Bible of women's voices being silenced. For example, the story of David and Bathsheba in 2 Samuel. Growing up, I remember hearing this story as if it were a romance. Later, in my own reading and study of that same passage, I did not see where the idea of romance came from. It is instead a story about power and lack of consent. David uses his power to summon Bathsheba, a married woman, expressly to have sex with her. Regardless of the spin you put on it, this is not romance. This is not intimacy. There was no mention of consent. Did she even have the ability to consent or to protest? We have no idea how she felt. Was she horrified? Was she a willing participant? How did she feel about the murder of her righteous husband? How did the birth of Solomon heal or worsen or somehow change the situation? We don't know any of those things because Bathsheba is silenced. Women are finding their voices, like the hashtag #MeToo and the hashtag #TimesUp movements, and still they are often not believed. Are you finding your voice? Are you making room for the voices of other women? Are you encouraging your girls and young women to speak? Are you the hero of your own life? Are you making other heroes or sheroes to speak the wisdom God gives them and follow God's lead? I'm inviting you to enter into a time of prayer, 145 days of prayer, to celebrate the upcoming birthday of women's ministry in the Disciples of Christ. I'm also inviting you to spend this time of prayer understanding that you are complete and beloved. We have provided a prayer calendar with suggestions for the focus of your prayers each day, and you can find it on the website. Certainly, we encourage you to pray as you are moved to pray. You're certainly not obligated to the calendar. During this time of prayer, I invite you to pray to be bold and courageous, and to speak, act, and advocate for the rights of all women. That we encourage, honor, and mentor other women so they too may find their voices and live out their call. I invite you to pray for the ability to see those around us that we are silencing, either actively or passively by not naming and empowering them. Let's celebrate all God has done for and with the women of the church, and all that God is still calling us to do and be. I love the women of this church. They are the movement in the movement for wholeness that we claim. Bless you. Believe that God has given you all you need, and Christ walks beside you as you pray for one day for every year women have been organized to do mission and ministry in the Disciples of Christ.